Hey everybody, welcome back to the training range. Last time we went over the tier 1 weapons and the tier 2 weapons and gave our opinions on which ones were the best ones, which ones were the worst. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the tier 3 and the tier 4, and then we'll also go over some of the range weapons like the guns, and then I'll talk a little bit about the bows. So I'll cut the video here, get those tier 3 weapons out just like we did last time. Alright, so here in front of us we have all the tier 3 weapons in the game. Once again, we're going to prioritize speed over most things, and then we'll also look at that special statistic on these weapons. So first we're going to start off with the survival spear. I think this is the worst tier 3 weapon in the game. It's still better than the tier 2 weapons and the tier 1 weapons simply because of the amount of damage it does. And at this point, if you have a tier 3 weapon, you've gotten it from your airdrop, or you've picked it up from some other player that you've killed, or you've gotten it from a special event. Likely at this point everyone's going to have armor, so this is still a good weapon because as you see it shreds 5 to 12 armor depending on if it's a quick hit or a fully charged hit. But you can also see that this is a slow weapon. I don't know what it is, but every time I pick up a slow weapon, even if it is better than the ones I have, I seem to have trouble, maybe because I'm not used to using them. But every time, so if I stagger someone and go for a fully charged hit, a lot of times if I don't get that off right away, what seems to happen is I get blocked on my fully charged hit because that person is already done with their stagger and they're able to throw up their block in time, and then I am staggered. So I definitely don't prefer slow weapons, as you can probably tell from my last video, but that's going to be another theme here with the pipe wrench. While it is a good weapon, it gives us 20% cripple and 22 damage on a fully charged hit. It is super slow. One time I picked this up and I thought I was going to be in good position, and I was fighting a guy with a Tonto knife. He beat me fair and square. I guess I was overconfident thinking that this was going to be a better weapon, and it clearly is, but it's so slow that I was having trouble. It's almost as if you have a slow weapon, you're better off doing the quick hits and using that advanced statistic like 20% cripple rather than doing a full blow. Unless you know you're going to land that, it's kind of hard to throw that long full swing. You can even shorten up your long swing and get kind of a half one to go in, but if you go for the full thing, that's a long time and someone's going to see that coming. So I think these two, since they're slow, are the two worst tier 3 weapons in the game. So here we have something interesting with the two axe weapons on the tier 3 category, the tomahawk and the survival axe. There's an easy favorite. So this survival axe has a 30% expose, while the tomahawk has a 20% expose, but it does have that fast fully charged hit, so you're going to get a lot more quick fully charged swings in there. It does one less damage on the fully charged swing, but it is fast. But I would much rather have this 30% expose if I had a choice between the two on the survival axe rather than the tomahawk that has just the 20%. Even though it is fast, it's a better weapon in my opinion than these two, but I would take the survival axe if I had the choice. Alright, so now we'll move on to the final 4 tier 3 weapons in the game. So we have the tactical machete, which is it's definitely a decent upgrade from the Tonto knife and from the kukri, just because it's dealing way more damage. So it's dealing 6 more damage on a fully charged swing than the Tonto knife, and I believe 3 more damage than the kukri, but it still has that same bleed statistic, so you're not getting any benefit from the special statistic on this weapon compared to the tier 1 and tier 2 blades that have the best bleed on them. You're still getting 1 bleed per second, which, you know, it's kind of disappointing on a tier 3 weapon. So if you have that random blade airdrop, the random tier 3 blade airdrop, and you're going between this or the one over there, which we'll talk about in just a second, it's definitely a letdown if you get the tactical machete, just because that extra bleed really will help you in the fights, and when somebody backs off, that bleed is going to be helpful. But it's still better, in my opinion, than these ones, just because I think bleed overall, so all the blades, definitely have an advantage over the others, just because there's so many uses for it. You can have a quick hit, and then if they run, they're going to be bleeding the entire time they're running. So it's definitely useful in a lot of situations, so that's why I rate it so high, even though it has the same amount of bleed as the best blades in Tier 2 and Tier 1. Now the Yari, I haven't personally used that much, but it being a fast spear and a Tier 3 weapon, you're going to be getting this mid to late game, and you're going to run into people that do have armor. So every time you hit them, it's going to shred 4 to 9 armor, and it's a fast weapon, so very quick hitting, very fast full charge hit. So you're going to benefit a lot using this weapon. There's an airdrop that is specific for this weapon as well, that comes with a reinforced crafted armor. So if you feel like you like the spears and you have had success with them, this might be an airdrop that you want to check out to get this Yari, because it is the best Tier 3 spear in my opinion in the game. Alright, now the top two. Now this can also depend on what type of perks you're running. So if you're running something for a bludgeon, obviously you're going to want this baseball bat over the Bowie knife. If you're running something for a blade, you're going to want the Bowie knife no matter what. But if we're throwing the perks out of the window like we did last time, the baseball bat is second to the Bowie knife in my opinion, just because that bleed that I was talking about earlier. But this is a very decent weapon, 20% cripple, so people aren't going to be able to run away from you once you hit them. A damage of 21, which is really good, and it is fast, so it has all these great characteristics. This is definitely no slouch in the Tier 3 category. And that brings us to the Bowie knife, which I think is the best Tier 3 weapon in the game. There are some very good ones, but I would rank this personally to be the highest, simply because of that bleed. 1.4 damage per second on the bleed. It does 19 damage on a full charge swing, and then when they back off and throw up their block, they're going to be bleeding that entire time. So in a 10-second period, you're getting 14 extra damage on that player. So that can just be from one little slash where you hit them for 7, they back off or they run away. Now they're taking 14 damage over a 10-second period, and that's going to be useful in so many ways, and it actually matches the bleed statistic on the Tier 4 weapon, the katana. A close second is the bat, and really it comes down to preference. So my opinion would be the blade, because I like to use the blades. If I did like to use bludgeons, then things might change and I might pick the baseball bat. Alright, so that's Tier 3. Now I'll cut the video and I'll bring up the Tier 4 weapon. So I have picked up the 4 Tier 4 weapons and I have them in my inventory. And what I thought I'd do, instead of having them laid out so you can see them, I thought I'd go through these and kind of pick them randomly so that you can see how I think they rank and why. So unlike the others, where there are 2 weapons in most cases per category, the Tier 4 only has 1 weapon for each category. The trident is the spear, the katana is the blade, the fireman's axe is obviously the axe, and the sledgehammer is the bludgeon. Now all of these have very good statistics on them, and all of these are going to beat the Tier 3, Tier 2, and Tier 1 equivalents. But let's go through them and see which ones are actually the best in my opinion in the Tier 4 category. So first off, we're going to take a look at the sledgehammer. And I think out of all the Tier 4 weapons here, this one is the weakest. And the main reason being is just that slow notation on it. So you can see, like the other slow weapons in the different tiers, this one is slow to fully charged hit, and you're not going to get that 27 damage unless you do a fully charged hit. And people are going to be reading this from a long way away, so the animation for the sledgehammer is very obvious when you do a full charged hit, and people can see it and they'll throw up their block and be ready for you. But it does do 20% cripple, and that 27 damage is huge. So basically 4 hits and the player is basically done. They'll be done with 108 damage. They'll have 2 left if they have a full 110 at the end of the game. Very good weapon, but the weakest out of the Tier 4 category in my opinion. Next, I'm gonna decide that the trident is a close third to the second weapon on my list, but it is better in my opinion than the sledgehammer. And reason being, because everyone at the end of the game, if they know what they're doing, or if they're going to be any threat to you at all, they're going to have armor on. And this also does a full charge hit of 27, but it doesn't have that slow statistic on it. And it will be shredding 5 to 12 armor per hit. We're going to be shredding armor, getting rid of that protection, and we're going to be doing the same amount of damage as that sledgehammer. So, very good weapon. I will rank it a close third in this tier 4 category. Now, we come down to the final 2 weapons in the entire game. It's just a matter of which one do I think is the best. Now you can see, each of these don't do as much damage as the other tier 4 weapons, but they do have a very good special statistic on them. And let's start with number 2, the Fireman's Axe. Now, it does 23 on a fully charged hit, but it leaves a 30% exposed, so if you barely hit the player that you're fighting, they're going to take 30% more damage on their next hit. So, if you hit them for 8 with a short hit, and then you fully charge swing, that 30% is going to add 7 more damage. So, we're going to be hitting for 30. So you have to keep that in mind. So this weapon can definitely chunk some health, and it will kill you in 4 blows without a problem, even if you have Hemoblast. So, the Fireman's Axe is a 2nd place finisher, and that's no fault of its own, but the Katana just outclasses everything. It does a 25 damage on a fully charged swing, and it has the fast statistic on it, meaning that you're going to be able to get so many more quick swings in than the other players if they're using any of these other tier 4 weapons. So if you need to quickly hit somebody in the back, quickly hit somebody after a stagger, you're going to deal a lot of damage, and it has that same bleed as the Bowie knife, 1.4 bleed per second, which is going to just drip their health away, and it's going to win you tons of fights. If you are confident that you can get up to 200 funk in a match before dying, and if you're confident that you'll be alive long enough to try this out, I would recommend trying the Katana airdrop at least for a little bit, just to see how it goes. For the longest time I used the gun airdrop, and I kind of used the hollow spawner to get to 200 funk and try and get a tier 4 weapon. And not until I really used the Katana a couple times on that hollow spawner did I realize how great it was. So I decided to switch to the Katana airdrop, and then all of a sudden I started racking up the wins, because whenever I got it, I was winning fights, even if the other players had katanas, which most likely they did. I was winning fights because I was on an equal playing field, and I was able to outskill them with this weapon. So definitely the best weapon in the game, the Katana, hands down. I don't think that many will disagree with me, and if they do, it's probably because they just prefer a different weapon type. But if we're talking about all things equal, no perks being selected for weapons, this one is the best weapon in the game, and I'll argue all day with anyone that wants to say otherwise. Alright, so that does it for the tier 3 and the tier 4 weapons. I thought as a bonus I'd go ahead and start talking about some range weapons. So let me go ahead and get those out, and then I will come back to you. So let's talk about the different range weapons in the game as well. As a bonus, we already talked about the tier 3 and tier 4. Let's get into the range weapons, because some people might have questions on those. Which gun is the best? Which bow is the best? People might not know, so I thought I'd go through them real quick just to show you and tell you what you should pick if you have the choice. So first off, right off the bat, I guess we can call this a range weapon because technically you can shoot it, and technically it is a gun. But the alarm gun is just 10 funk. Basically all you want to do, if you find this in a locker, just run over to the recycler and sell it for 10 funk. And the reason being, I think it does 1 damage just to a player, and it just puts a alarm beacon on them. All it is an annoyance. It just makes an alarm go off inside that player, so you can kind of hear where they are if they're running away. But really, if you're shooting this at someone, it's kind of just to be a troll, just so you make them beep for a long time so they can't hide. It doesn't even shoot funk barrels. If you throw it, it can blow it up, but that's about all it can do. If you can throw it at a player to try and kill him, that's about the only way you're going to be able to. Basically, all it is 10 funk, So this is what you want to do with it. Basically, pick it up, you put it in the recycle machine, and get 10 funk out of it. It's great. Now there's 3 guns, and these can either be given to you on the random gun airdrop, and they have an equal chance of being given to you, or they can show up in the late match hollow spawner for 200 funk. These are good weapons, all 3 of them, but some are better than others. So you have the SMG, which I think is the worst gun out of the 3. It still is a very good weapon when you are close to the opponent, but the only problem, if you're very close to them, they can hit you and disarm you, and then you no longer have this gun that you bought for 200 funk or that you got out of your airdrop. So if you do have an SMG and you find yourself running a gun a lot, you might want to try the new perk that's tight grip, just to see how it goes. That way you can be up close and personal, and they're not going to be able to take your gun away. They're not going to be able to disarm you. You'll be able to hold that. But the reason that this thing is so bad compared to the others is because of its accuracy. So you can see just from the spray, I was shooting straight and it was hitting up and down and left and right. Unless you're right next to somebody, you really don't want to shoot at them because you're likely not going to hit them, and your bullets go very fast. You have to recraft ammunition at the barrels, and keep in mind also that you have to press X to reload when you do refill your ammo. But you can see here, just try and pay attention. I'm aiming down the sights and I'm going to shoot. Watch how much this spreads. I'm not even going to touch the right stick. Watch how far this thing goes around. So the kick is crazy and it's just spreading all over the place. So this is not the best gun. It'll do in tight situations, but I wouldn't recommend it. The Magnum is a very good gun because it comes with 6 bullets and it's very accurate. You can quickly shoot, aim and shoot, and you're likely going to hit your target simply because, if anything, the auto aim on Xbox helps out a lot. So if you're aiming at this from far away, you can shoot without even aiming down the sights, and you'll usually hit your target. This is definitely a recommended weapon. If you get this, you should feel very lucky because it's much better than the SMG, and it comes with 6 bullets, dealing 25 damage per shot. The best gun in the game is the rifle. It comes with 4 shots. It does take a little bit to aim all the way down the sights, but like I said on Xbox, if you tap the aim button, you're going to start locking onto that opponent that you're aiming at, and you can shoot quickly, and usually you will hit them. Unless they're running side to side really fast, sometimes it's kind of hard to line them up. But if you can hit them, that's going to take 40 of their damage away. If you get 2 hits in, then really all you need is 1 more melee hit and you got that player. If you hit them with a headshot, it's going to be 60 damage for that 1 headshot. So this is a prize gun. You're going to want this over the other 2. But if you get the Magnum, it's a very close second. But I'll take this rifle over the Magnum any day. That does it for the guns. Now let's talk about the bows. So there's 4 bows that you can have in the game. There's the auto bow, the crafted bow, the recurve bow, and the compound bow. Now, if you come across these in the game, you should know which ones to pick and which ones to upgrade to. The worst, in my opinion, is the auto bow, and this is simply because of the way it shoots. Now, you might think it's really good because you can quickly shoot off the 3 shots in your clip, and you can do a total of 24 damage to a player if you hit with all 3 of those shots. So if you have them lined up and you know you're going to hit them, you can quickly shoot those 3 arrows and you can get a really good hit in. But the problem is, not a lot of times the player is just going to be standing there waiting to be hit unless they're recycling or healing, something like that. They don't see you. Many times they're going to be running around. And what I like to do with a bow, so I'll take this crafted bow for example, I like to hold it in and then line up my shot just right. Even if they're running, I can kind of adjust on the fly and then let go of the trigger to shoot. Now, I can do this with the other 3 bows, but I can't do this with the auto bow. As soon as you push the trigger in the auto bow, it's going to shoot. There's no holding the trigger, nothing like that. So that's why I rate it the worst, just because there's no time for me to aim, hold the trigger, and then let go at the last second to shoot that player. It just has to be an accurate shot, kind of like the guns right off the bat. And then the crafted bow. This is rated high for me, especially because This is something that you can just make straight away as soon as you get in the game. It's costing you 12 funk to make this crafted bow, and it comes with 6 arrows. And then the ammunition is just a stick, and it's 3 funk per 6 arrows. So this is a very good weapon to have at all times. You really don't have an excuse to not have one unless you just don't have time to craft one at the time. But it can win you a lot of fights just by, if somebody's running away from you, you can chase them down and try and shoot them for that last bit of health. Or if somebody is backing off from you when you're fighting, you can pull out your weapon and start shooting at them from a distance. Then when they close the gap, switch to your melee and block, and then you have them staggered. But I rate this above the auto bow simply for the fact that I can hold in the trigger and then let go at the last second to shoot away. So that is a good bow, but it is outclassed by these other two. The recurve bow you can get in an airdrop, or you can find it in a green crate. And it does 8 to 16 damage instead of the 6 to 12. So it's a definite upgrade. If you see this, you're going to want to switch out your crafted bow for it, and then you'll enjoy the benefits of having a much stronger bow to shoot players with. By far, the compound bow is the best bow in the game. 10 to 20 damage. It's going to really take some health away from the opponents if you can actually hit them with it. And like I said, like the other two, you can hold in the trigger and let go at the last second to line up your shot and hit the opponent. If you find this on a player and you have a recurve bow or a crafted bow or an auto bow, you're going to want to ditch those, and you're going to want to reap the benefits of having this weapon towards the end of the game, because it is prized possession, taking 20 health off of the other players for one shot. It's a win to have this weapon, and you are going to win some matches if you can find it. Alright guys, so that'll do it for part 2 of the weapons guide. If you do have any questions or comments, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and leave a like if you like this content. If you guys want, I'll also do a part 3 where I can go over the different stims and the other different items in the game, much like the stun gun. It doesn't actually light this tree on fire, but it can't keep us from trying. So look out for a part 3 if you guys did like this content. I'll definitely put that out and just go over the other items in the game pretty quickly, including the chainsaw and things like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed, but until next time, I'll see you later.